Hello everyone, today we're gonna drape basic bodies with French dart. So before we start, there are a few things that I need to share. If you're new into draping, I always suggest you to have your reference lines on your mannequin or your dress form before you start draping anything. So which is gonna help you a lot on marking your pattern piece and your drape piece. It's going to be much easier to transfer it to your paper pattern. So important lines that you should have. If your dress form doesn't have the reference lines already, sometimes they use the stretchy fabrics on the dress forms and that's why they don't have these lines. So what would you do? Have your center front, your neckline, your side seam, armhole, waistline, and shoulder line for sure, and the center back, of course. The princess line, you can have it or it's not very necessary, but it's always good because it's basically the princess lines goes across the apex of your body. So which is nice again to have your apex point as well. And it will help you to figure out where is your dart on the bodice, on the skirt, the first dart. Okay, that's dress form and the taping. The next thing, we need to prepare our muslin. Again, if you are new to this, prepare your muslin before you start draping. Prepare your fabric beforehand, press it, fold the center front line and bust line drawn on your muslin. Like this one. See, I already pressed the center front an inch in, which is on my straight grain. So how do we find where we should draw our bust line on our muslin piece? We measure it from the highest point of the bodice, which is neck to your apex. So this measurement, whatever it is, you add an inch at least. So mine was about 9.5 inch, which is about 24 centimeters. And whatever that is, you add 3 more centimeters or 1 inch to it. For the whole bodice, again, you measure it from here, pass through apex and to the waistline, and then add 3 to 4 inches. Again, center front, pass through the apex and go to the side. Whatever that measurement is, add 2 or 3 inches. For example, mine is about 9 inch here. I added 2 or 3 more inches, which is on centimeters. This is 23 and you add like 6-7 centimeters. This is size 6 dress form, and don't take these measurements if you don't have the exact same dress form. Each dress form has a different measurements. So let's start. So the first, we align your bust line and the center front here, and you pin it right here first. And the next where you have to pin is your neck point at the center front. Make it straight up, smooth it out, pin it right there. The next one is on your waistline and the center front. Without pulling, another pin goes right here. So what would be the fourth one? Find our apex. Follow the bust line, apex, and we pin it right there. Now our center front and the bust line and the apex is secure. The next step is to smooth around the neck and the shoulders. You hold your hand and smooth it out up and around the shoulder and neck point. Again, you're not pulling it like this. You smooth it out, the center front to the neckline, and you find the neck and shoulder point and you pin it right there. There is a tension and there is some pulling going on here before I go ahead and do anything else. I'm gonna give a little cut at the tip of my fabric. Do you see how it's still pulling? Gonna make a little cut here. Release the tension. Little cut here, another cut here. Already started to sit nicely around the neckline. Maybe I go ahead and give another snip. Yes, perfect. So this is sitting smoothly. The next step is to find my shoulder point. So after you have your center front, apex, neckline, neck and shoulder point, the next is to smooth out. Another pin goes right here. And again, I kind of see some tension going on here. Maybe I just gonna give a little bit of, not too much, just a little cut. Okay. See, it started to release the tension right away. So after here, I just smooth this down and I find my underarm side seam and underarm and I pin it right here. So I'm just gonna cut this piece a little bit, give me a little freedom. Okay, so what do I have? I do have my center front, apex, neckline, center front neckline, neck and shoulder point, armhole, side seam, and underarm. Now, before I go do anything else, I need another pin right here. So something about, just smooth it out a little bit, just a little bit, not all the way down, and pin one right here. After this, the front. The next step would smooth out center front and the waistline till here, right? So I can gather all the excess fabric, excess muslin, and turn it into a French dart. So the next step would cut little bit pieces around here, so make it smooth around the waistline. I'm going to put another pin on the princess line. I would go ahead to smooth out this piece again around the waistline and move forward after each cut. So as you see, it already started to shape, right? You come to the side seam and the waist point. Maybe I'll do another one. Yes. And I put another pin right on the side seam and waistline. At this point, I need to cut this little excess so I can see it a little clearer. I mark it somewhere about 2 to 3 inches up, and this is where I want my dart to close. Up and down, fold it in to dart and pin it right there. I'm gonna release this to see how it looks. And the next pin that I'm gonna do it here, I'm not gonna pin it on the dress form, just gonna pin it the fabric. I'm gonna pin the side. I'm gonna cut this extra piece. So this is our French dart. It can go to the breast, to the bust line, but it cannot pass your apex. And if you want a very pointy, when you do your French dart, do not pass the bust line, not toward the higher, do not pass the apex as well. The end point, the maximum that you can go, it should be your apex. If dart that goes and finishes on the apex, that's gonna give a very pointy breast point, which is mostly like 50s silhouette. My next step would be start to pointing out the important lines and address it on the muslin. The first is center front. We have to put our information on center front. This is the bust line. We already know it, but our apex, we should have neckline starting from the center front. We can go ahead and make it little dash lines. On the neck and shoulder point, it should be like a T or L. So we should see the angle. And then we continue on the shoulder line till we hit shoulder point and the beginning of the armhole. Then make a little dash lines on the armhole. I want to release this. I want to see how it looks without pinning onto dress form. And armhole and side seam, a T, and then from there we go down and the next, before I go finish the dart, I want to do my waist now. I'm gonna keep this for the end. So center front waistline, then I'm gonna release this too. And another thing, do not make it skin tight. Have a little bit of room, just a little, not too much. Depends. I mean, if you want a little room, is fine, but don't make it too tight under your skin tight. Unless you have a corset and you are draping on it, that's different. But on a real body, it should not be skin tight. Waistline to my side seam, which again I'm making a T or L, and I'm going to, I hit my dart point in here, make it more visible. I'm going to use my red pencil. I'm going to cross over my side seam from top to bottom and going to make little marks on my dart. Another one here, another one here, another one here, and I can do cross my line too. One around here. This is where I actually want to end, and we can correct it later on our pattern. Next, I'm gonna transfer this onto a pattern piece and sew a sample for you. Now I am going to show you how to transfer it to a pattern. We can see that we have some references lines, but before I transfer to this, I need to make a little sense of what's going on here. So I'm just going to give little lines so I can see this is my dart. This is the bust line and this is my apex. Okay, this is center front piece draped on straight grain. This is my French dart. Now I need to pin this muslin piece to the dotted paper. I take my tracing wheel and I start to trace my lines to my dotted paper. So I don't do anything in here. I'm just going to show my opening and maybe some reference line, just a little. You don't have to go very crazy. And my side seam to my underarm. I need to make a reference of my bust line on the sides and the center front and my apex. After this, I need to go ahead and do my armhole, my shoulder point, neck line, shoulder line, and neck point, center front neck, and my center front just a little bit. You don't have to do the straight because you're gonna do it with our ruler anyway. So I took all the important parts. I just double check if I traced it the right places. Everything seems accurate, so I'm going to take the pins out and slowly take this piece. Okay, now We get your ruler. First line we do our center front, and if you are doing on the dotted paper, try to use the reference points too to make a straight line. And I can see my bust line, just going to apex. Okay, so all the corners should be on square corners, so in the 90-degree, like the center front at the waist, center front, the neck and arm, neck and shoulder point, arm, shoulder point, armhole and side, and the waist line and the side seam. So as long as we have everything on the 90-degree corner, so we can start drawing just a line. This side seam should be straight. This is our dart opening, so I can see and make it straight on this side. So before I go ahead and do the dart, I finish my shoulder line, my arm. This is my dart, which is here to here. On the bodice, I didn't make a point of where it ends, because obviously it could end, it could pass the apex, could be a very long dart, but we are not doing that. And if I take the direction of my apex, which is here, just a very fade line, it needs to be about an inch away from my apex, and make that your end of your dart. If you're going to use this as your base pattern to make changes and to have it, to keep it, size 6 French dart base pattern for bodies, do not make any changes. But if you want to turn this into a bodice that you can wear, or you want to attach it to your skirt, I would suggest to make little changes on the neckline and the underarm. Okay, so I'm going to close my dart right now. Since I made a little changes on the length of the dart, I need to add a little bit to my side seam in here. This is what I'm doing this, so I can correct my pattern before I finish it. So the end point is right here. And I need to use my tracing wheel, so when I open it, so I can see. And this is center front. This is French bodice front, size 6. This is the base. From anything from here you can make changes. I'm just gonna go ahead and add seam allowance. Now I can cut this. Okay, our French dart bodice. I chose a pinstripe fabric, which is cotton and it's easy to sew. And this is our pattern, and I'm placing it on a fold and going to pin it. Okay, start cutting. My dart middle, my dart foot. Okay. Okay, so I am going to close my French darts. We did our French dart on the bodice, and as you can see, this is how it looks on the dresses. It kind of gives you a very fine and nice shape, and it's not really visible, as you see. We finished our French dart.